And we are live. Yes, we are live on Let's Think Podcast. I'm your host, Speak Seven, and I have my co-host, my brother. Yes, sir.
Yeah, me, Charles Griffell,
Yes,
live
sir.
by Greg.
Yes, sir. And
Glad
we
to be
have
here.
glad to be here. And we had the great brother, the good brother, my brother, our brother, Ishmael Bey.
Peace and blessings to you, Sheikh Seven. You know?
Yes, sir.
Peace and
Yes,
blessings to you
sir.
also, Brother Jarvis.
Yes,
And
sir.
blessings to you.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Our last show was a great show. But first, allow me to rise, giving all thanks and perfect praises unto Allah, highest honors to his holy prophet, honors to the forerunner, honors to all, and I mean all of you, and all of the listening audience who are participating in the comprehensive program of uplifting fallen humanity. I send my love and my peace to you all from Let's Think Podcast. Islam.
Islam.
Um, yeah, our last show, Brother Ish, was a good one. And you know what? You brought the documentation. And that's one thing that um the reason why I brought you on, because you bring that documentation. As you say, documentation beat conversation.
Yes, sir.
And you always bring the documentation. The last show was a great one, and this is only part two because we're gonna have series. Because I know the brother Ish got plenty, and I mean plenty, of information, documentation that he can provide. But we're going to break it down in the series, episodes. When the brother wants to come on and bless the family, we're going to bring the brother on to bless the family. And Brother Jarvis even, requested that you come back. Like
Yes, sir.
he really enjoyed the show. I knew he would, though. I knew you would.
I mean, I'm always a student of, let's say, great information, because it's a lot of information out there that ones can present in an intelligent tone, but if the facts don't match what you're telling me, it's just a whole bunch of, as they say, rubbish.
Yeah, I truly do salute y'all so much. Like I said, the platform and for me to come on and share the information is something that I felt, very comfortable to do. I'm so glad that your audience were able to be edified with the information also. I do think that documentation is very important. Also, just having good conversation is important too, because that's how you're able to unlock more questions. Within us having these conversations with one another, we're able to say, "Oh yeah, well let's go pull up this clip, or let's go pull up this information freestyle," not just being strict, to the PowerPoint, but sharing the information and exchanging the information of the Moors and where we tie into ancient America is so very important.
I have a question
For sure.
from the tip top. Um, on the thumbnail, we all are adorning this headdress,
Mhm.
That's right.
whatever the color may be. Um, but it's this headdress. And over my time in the Moorish movement, brother, you've always been um a brother of knowledge and information that ones would always check for. And I've always checked for you, brother.
Praise
You
due
know,
to Allah. Yes, sir. Mhm.
and I know that you have an extensive information and documentation as it pertains to the headdress that we as Moorish American Muslims wear in
Absolutely.
whatever differentiation.
Right.
Because see, sometimes we don't understand that particular point.
Mhm.
So I wanted to ask, could you talk to us about the feds being in America? Because
Absolutely.
I've heard you say that the feds was in America before
Right.
it was, you know. So
Right.
I'd like you to demonstrate that particular portion for the people.
Yeah, I was really glad we got a chance to unlock what was actually on those walls 5,000 years ago. By you being able to look at those actual artifacts and the multiple examples of what we had as far as the fez being worn here in the BC years, it puts into context that we're not wearing something that's foreign. Where many of us have that bloodline and lineage from here, right? We just don't tap into it. We get told that we have Indian in our family, but as my cousin Phoenix Moon asked the question, where did the Indian go? The Indian is still the Indian, right? And if that's what's tying you to the land, then it is a heritage, a culture. That means that we're wearing ancestral dress. We're wearing ancestral, we're eating ancestral foods, right? We're in our environment. And within us being indigenous, there's going to be a merging of other cultures too, right?
Mm-hmm.
Whether that's coming from the sisters and brothers of our African lineage, or whether it's coming from the European lineage. But when we're talking about the facts and the information of what we present, tonight we'll be able to even unlock even more of the indigenous use of the headdress, and it's very comfortable. You'll find a consistent line of us always wearing our indigenous headdress. It's not foreign at all, so we embrace that.
It's not.
So
Let me ask too.
go ahead, bro.
When you're diving in on the fez, can you talk about the turban as well, and while we demonstrate the turban?
Absolutely, and
For the
and
audience.
that's when I was dealing with the Maya last year. I mean, last episode, the first one I was showing was the Mayans who are UNI phenotype with the turban, right?
Mhm.
So that's why that was important to show too, highlighting that the turban is something that's indigenous to us. It's the same exact thing that the Europeans saw when they left, was the same thing once they arrived here. They were seeing the headdresses, they were seeing the turbans, they were seeing the phenotypes. And once they would write it down, you had people later on coming and putting their own spin on it. Well, what they really meant to say was, well, that ain't what they said.
Mm-hmm.
They just left Spain and they know what Moors look like.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So if they knew what Moor, they're the experts of what a Moor would look like if they were ruled by him for 700 years.
Mm-hmm.
They're experts in that. Right. So they're saying this looks like a Moorish palace. They're looking at Montezuma's palace and they're seeing checkered floors, black, white, black, white, black, white, black, white tiles. They're comparing that to what they just saw.
What you say? Say it again.
Right? They're looking at Montezuma's palace. They're looking at his checkered floor, and they're calling it a Moorish floor because it looks just like Alhambra and the places where they just came from. It's no mistake, right? So they write it down. This is what it looks like. They call the feather headdress a Moorish hat. Is what they would call it. Right? So this is what they put in their writing, that this is a Moorish hat.
Mm.
A Moorish hat.
That's deep.
Yeah, it's very important.
Very important. Very important. I know the brother said he was coming loaded, for the people to see PowerPoint on display if need be. And me, how Let's Think Podcast is. We love to bring the receipts. So, we're gonna let the brother demonstrate that measure.
Let's get it.
Ish. I don't know. Same email as the last time.
Okay, I thought I sent it to you on Facebook because I just sent it to you on Facebook again. The link.
Okay.
I can send it to an email address, but
okay. Let me give you one right.
Or I could even just post it up in the back chat.
Yeah, that'll work.
Okay, I'll post it up in the back chat. No problem.
That'll work. Back chat.
And the same courtesy applies as last week. If the guests have any questions, during the show and it's tied into the topic, we'll be happy to answer those questions.
Please super chat your questions. Anytime in the presentation, super chat your questions. We're paying attention. We're looking. Please super chat your questions because I know you will have some.
And thumbs up and share the room. Well, so thumbs up and share the room.
Sir.
Please.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And I appreciate.
Peace to the gods. Awareness daily. Peace.
Yeah, Awareness Daily back in the building. One of our biggest supporters. I love you, Awareness Daily. We need to make you a moderator.
Mm-hmm.
That's what that need to be. Because Awareness Daily always in the building. Always in the building. Yeah, we're gonna make Awareness Daily a moderator today.
For sure.
Yeah, that's what we're gonna do. That's what we're gonna do. Just hold on, Awareness Daily. We're gonna make you a moderator. I appreciate your support.
Tucker L, love.
Tucker L in the building.
Tucker L
Peace
says
and love.
the design of the fez and the turban is 360.
Oh, the brother came from some jewelry.
That's right.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And we're gonna talk about that. We're gonna talk about that because I know it's gonna go there.
Yes,
So
yes.
we're going to share screen. We're gonna share the screen. Oh man, I think we're gonna love this one. I think we're gonna love this one. It's long.
It's long.
We sharing?
Oh yeah, we on.
We on?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
We
now,
on.
if you ever just want to show the slideshow and not that version of it, you just hit the slideshow up above my head right there too. You can just hit slideshow up top.
I'm gonna bring it to you just like this so you can see it. They can see it. You know.
Absolutely. And for that first one, what you have there is one of the earliest maps. This is one of the earliest maps that's dealing with the French. When you deal with the earliest of the French and as well as the Spanish maps of America, you see Morocco right there. If you blow that up right there, you're going to see Morocco. And that Morocco, which is right there on that left-hand side, that's the full map on the right-hand side. But if you right there is Morocco, that's Florida.
Oh, wow.
So if you
I'm trying to blow it up, brother.
no problem. Yeah, take your time. You can whatever it takes to
see if we can get this thing blown.
You want to enlarge like your computer screen, probably. If you hit the 3 dots next to your StreamYard, and those 3 dots should give you the option to zoom.
Maybe I should have shown this slideshow anyway. Let me see. Right here.
Let's see.
Nah, that ain't it. You know, I ain't the best at this.
That's okay.
It'll
be on your StreamYard, the one on the back chat.
Okay.
If you hit the 3 dots next to you see the 3 dots over there on your main screen.
Okay, right here.
I think that just shrunk the share screen though.
I got it.
Okay.
And you say that's Florida that we're looking at on that map?
That map on there is, yes, a location in Florida. It's actually the part of Florida that it is right now. It's like near Jacksonville, Florida.
We got it.
That's interesting. Because we was talking last show, we was talking about Jackson. We was talking about after the wars was fought, how those same Spaniards traveled down to Key West and took over Key West and pretty much sacked them.
Exactly.
And it was, you know, for those who didn't know, but Key West played a major position when it came to the pirates and those who were fleeing wars or those who just didn't want to pay the tax.
Exactly.
What? Didn't want to do what?
Pay the tax.
Pay them tariffs. You gotta pay.
Hey, well, they say y'all going south, we going too.
Yeah. All right, we finna do this to see if we can. I don't know if that's gonna blow it up any. Why is it not doing it?
Can you circle the section that says Morocco on it of what you're able to see? It's right there in the center. There you go. If you see where his mouse is, that says Morocco right there. And I found that particular map when I was in the country of Bonaire. I was in the country of Bonaire and I went to um, a pterographical a museum, and going to that museum, as I went upstairs, there was this big 6 foot map that was up on the wall, kind of tilted. And I looked and I seen Florida, and right dead in the center, I said, "That says Morocco." So I couldn't wait to get to my laptop so I could like doing some research on it. After I took a picture of it, of course. I went back and did some research on it, and that was one of the earliest French maps. And those were being inhabited by Timucua Indians, and the Timucua Indians are actually connected to the Mayans. You'll find some of the ancient canoes that came from South America that landed in those areas of Western Florida. But those Timucua Indians move freely between Florida and South America. And some of those canoes would hold like 50, 60, up to like 100 people on some of those canoes going back and forth, for trade and things. So yeah, that was Morocco. Again, this is all tying into a lot of that history that you hear bits and pieces about, but you really need to see it on maps. And it's not saying that the whole land was called Morocco. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that that particular location in Jacksonville, Florida, name was Morocco on the earliest maps. Okay.
And the country you went to, explain what that country, that part of the world.
Absolutely. Yep. The country I was in was called Bonaire, and the area is called the ABC Islands. You have Aruba, Bonaire, and Curacao. So they're called the ABC Islands, ABC. And that was a key area because that's where a lot of the Indians from New England that we were talking about, they were being shipped to Aruba and those ABC Islands. That was one of the islands, and then they were being exchanged. We saw who they were exchanging them for, Moors, right? So they were moving people back and forth to those ABC Islands and different select islands. Good question. That was a good question.
So I have a question.
Of course.
Why is it in Morocco here and so-called over there?
Yeah, I mean, that's a legitimate question for you to ask because that's an indigenous name. By that being an indigenous name, full and inhabited indigenous people, you get indications of relationships and trade and things that were taking place. The place where a part of my hometown in Alabama is called Andalusia, Alabama. Like anyone can look it up, Andalusia, Alabama. Like Andalusia is an indication that there was trade taking place, not just with Spaniards, because Spain didn't call it Andalusia. Moors called it Andalusia. Spaniards call it Spain. Right? So Andalusia, these relationships and things that were going on are indications of things that were taking place,
Yes, sir.
Very, very important.
And I'm looking at this other map over here, and it could be some things that I could ask about that, but we're gonna leave this one for
later. That's just a larger version. I just want to show specifically the area, but that's what the larger map is. And again, that was in 1591. And if y'all want to buy the map, you got the price right there. You can go buy the map for yourself. Right.
Hey, I don't think anyone ready to pay that for a map.
You feel me?
Some people are, but guess what? I'm good looking at it right here.
Yeah, exactly. It's free 99. Give me that free 99.
99. You know what I mean? Next slide.
Next slide is perfectly fine, bro.
Next slide.
The next one is dealing with the ancient origins of the Aztecs is North America.
What?
The ancient origins of the Aztec is North America. A lot of people.
Whoa.
I know, brother.
This changes the game. This kind of shifts the paradigm right here.
Talk to me.
Now, where is it commonly said that Aztecs came from, or their origins are?
Who said what? What was it?
It's like when we talk about Aztecs commonly.
Okay.
Right. It said the ancient origins of the Aztecs It's North American. What do they commonly say?
Oh, they always say that the Aztecs come from South America.
Whoa.
Right? They always talk about the Aztecs and Montezuma and stuff, right? They deal with Montezuma. They always say that it originates from South America. That's not the facts. This is a map of the 1800s that's showing, and if you read exactly what that says right there, it's telling you, it says Antigua Residencia de los Aztecas. That's what it says right there on that map. Now, we're not just taking my word for it, right? We're not just taking the map's word for it. What we have an opportunity to do is listen to what the scholar has to say. So, like we did before, if you just click on the back chat, let's see what the foremost expert has to say about the origins of the Aztec.
Whoa.
So pretty much they pretty much done flipped everything upside down.
That's a fact. It's right there. It's right there on the map of what it's labeled. Right,
Yeah.
the ancient land of the Aztecs is in North America. It's an area that you call like Utah and Arizona.
So you want me to click and play it?
I was about to ask you
if you pull up that back chat, that's on, or if you click on that link right there, it'll take you to the audio of the professor, the doctor who's saying it right there.
Can you see it?
I can see it.
It's we can see it more.
You have these cultural creations that are still there today because they built in stone. Where in North America they built wood and earth. But the Mississippian people, who were ever bit as much masters of architecture and art and culture, because they built with what would be more organic substances, it's just not there. So we always look at them because those are the groups that the Europeans first came into contact with, and the Mississippians had declined by that time as being the dominant cultural force. But the Aztecs actually came down from North America. So the Aztecs are a Ute Aztecan group, which we call the Chichimecas. They came in and took over the entire Valley of Mexico. Those are North Americans. So really, the question is, did it move north or did it move south?
Can I finally get my bombs, please?
Man, I wish I got.
All right.
I don't got no bombs.
Boom, 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 boom.
Boom. Yo, we don't even got no bomb, bro. You know what? Next show, I'm gonna have them bombs for you, Ish.
No doubt.
I'm gonna have them bombs for you, Ish.
So, can you just read who that was that we were just speaking? You know, who we were just hearing? Because, like I said, we're dealing with the foremost expert on that. Who is that?
This is Dr. Eric Singleton. Was a curator of ethnology at the National Cowboy and Western Heritage Museum to talk about religion and tradition in the ancient Mississippian world. We explore a variety of topics, but first we define the geographic boundaries of the ancient Mississippians, which cover large portions of the Midwest, Southeast of what is now the USA.
I appreciate it, brother. So again, we're dealing with the foremost experts in the field that are acknowledging these facts also. But these aren't things that people know about. When they talk about Montezuma, they're only talking about, they're not telling you that the origins of it is North America. They're not telling you, it's just that the Aztecs that were in North America were using and making their items out of their local products, which was wood, and wood, of course, goes away. Whereas once they got to South America, they were making it out of stone, which still stands, right? But when you look at the flow, even the genetic flow of what was taking place and the cultural flow of what was taking place, these are North American tribes. And Montezuma, when you talk about the Marine song, from the halls of Montezuma to the shores of Tripoli, right? The Marine fight song was talking about these Marines going against the Moors. But we're just talking about the history of these Aztecian people and the Aztec culture originating in North America.
Question. Are those the same people who dressed in Mississippi as well?
Yeah, this is all a part of the Mississippian culture, and you can trace that through the architecture, right? The Mississippian culture are these mound building cultures. These are the same people we're talking about. The even again, the flow that you find of my tribe, which is the Muskogee, or you find the tribe of those who are Choctaw, right? These people are connected to the Mississippian culture, the ancient Mississippian culture, right? The poverty points, the mounds that are built from those areas. We're in connection of that. And that was just a part of it as far as how the Aztecs originated. Okay.
Whoa. I mean, you could super chat your questions.
We have them in the chat now.
Yeah, we in the chat. They can super chat their question.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? We do need to get awareness daily on the show.
That's a fact.
and salute the NYP talk show. Ron Ryan, LMT, Mikey Fever, NYP. My brothers, we love y'all. Let's get it.
We do
need to go over there and rock with them, because I know they would love this information on that platform as well.
Oh yeah, full support. Absolutely. No, the support, the spirit that they come in, I support 100%. The love they show to my brother, Sharif Ishmael Bey, is second to none. I support them and love them 100%. No problem.
Yes, we waiting on Sharif to get sneaky. Sharif might pop up. We have a. Oh, this would do something else. We get Sharif to pop up. Yeah, this would do something else too, because it's got that work.
And to elaborate on that Mississippi River, especially dealing from our Quran perspective, I think that would be really good.
Agreed. There were so many jewels that the prophet laid out. That's why I respect the fact that we're scientists. Scientists don't just take things at face value. Scientists are supposed to take information and advance it. That's what a scientist is supposed to do. So you select whatever your specialty is or whatever your forte is, and you move it forward. We're not just supposed to sit here and be quote bots. We're supposed to take the information and expound on it, prove him to be right, prove the history to be right, to advance the culture. Very, very important. But we can go on to the next part of the PowerPoint if you wish, or if there's any questions or whatever, that's perfectly fine too.
We have one. I don't know if you want to pull that up from the chat.
Let's see what we have here. What is it, brother?
It says from Samuel III. It said, "Would the Olmecs be the earliest Nubian / Moorish civilization in America?"
No, they would not. In that we dealt with a civilization last episode, which was Corral. Corral is deemed as the oldest civilization in the Americas, and it predates the Olmecs by 1,000 years minimum. So, the Olmecs are not in that category. And as far as the Olmecs themselves, as indigenous people, it's very important for us to recognize the fact that they're not directly coming from, an African civilization. These are the most ancient indigenous. They're tapped into the most indigenous people here in the Americas. So I know some people try to, tie it in linguistically, et cetera, but that's not what I see. That's not accurate. These are indigenous cultures, and when you look at the most ancient bones, they're tapped into those indigenous people, And when Africans, would come over before the Europeans, they came into a culture that was already established. You're not going to tell me that these people can create all of these great civilizations and the place that they just left doesn't even have it. You don't see those magnificent things in West Africa. You don't see them. So you can't tell me that you just left West Africa and you came from this civilization here, but yet all the greatest of the monuments and stuff are over here. You can't convince me of that.
No.
I would have the greatest things where I'm from easily, right? Before I would then create a satellite and come somewhere else.
That's a fact.
So you can, you know, sell that to someone else, but again, we're not talking the same thing, you know. So I would just say study Corral, which is a far older civilization, before you would even get to the Olmecs. Would be my answer, respectfully.
Indeed. Indeed. Great answer, brother.
Yeah, and what I also want to tie in is just how they try to whitewash that part of the history. As we go to the next part of the PowerPoint, you'll be able to see the techniques of some of the whitewashing that takes place.
Mhm.
You know, and I admire the fact that there's so many people who point that out. There's so many people that deal with American Indian history and Moorish history. They point to the games that people play. We know what they do in Egypt, right?
Oh yeah.
They try to erase Nubia. They try to erase the whole Kush history and the origins of Egypt, and they try to make it the pale Sumerians, even though they were black Sumerians. They try to paint it with a white brush in order to erase the black element. No different than what they do in the Americas. There's an indigenous element that they try to erase. I'm sorry, brother.
I met a guy. Matter of fact, he's from Ethiopia, and he couldn't believe that I knew the old language. He said, I'm from Ethiopia. I said, oh, you're a Cushite. He looked at me like, how do you know? How do you know that? And I was like, I do a little bit of studying, man, and I know. He was just looking shocked when he just kept looking at me like somebody knows who we are, but also he know who he is as a person himself, and he was just like just in awe. I don't know.
I'm sure it was refreshing for him. I'm sure that
and he was an older gentleman at that. That I mean, that guy was way not to put age on him. He probably was like mid 60s, going into his 70s.
Right.
And I said that to him, and he was just looking at me like,
right.
Walk away from me, but but you got some information that I really want to ask, but I'm working, but I just dropped a little tool on him, and
she's 7-0. Yes, sir.
Pro.
Can I get my bomb, bro?
Read this. Bro, is this on the screen?
No, it's not.
Man. I'm so glad it's not.
You hiding the good stuff from us, and hey, whoa,
love it. I'm over here like,
yo, bomb dropping on yourself, and we can't even see the information.
Bang.
Yeah.
Hold up, wait a minute.
I'm trying to hog all the good stuff.
Are we here? Can you see it?
I mean, it's about to pop up
Yeah,
now.
He died. No, you gotta go. No, you gotta go up another. You gotta go up one. Go up one.
One more?
Yeah, you gotta go up one more.
Well,
that one, I just wanted y'all to peep the signs of the black gods, right? I'm God body, right? So.
Oh yeah, yes,
sir.
The
signs of the god. I just wanted to point out the whitewash. That's the version that they show all over right there on the left. When it's really that version right there in the middle is what the walls actually look like. Now, when I take my trip and I go to South America this year, when I go to Mexico, I'm gonna be live when I go inside the temple, just so everybody can see it on the walls for themselves, like I did when I went to the other temples. But for this one, that version on the left is what they show. That version in the middle is what it is, and that other one is from the Florida Museum. And that's with the black god, the Aztec jet black god. Now that's a version of the sun disk in its most original form, So I just wanted to show how they try to erase that element, and it's okay to embrace the black god because that's the reflection of us that they try to hide. You know what I'm saying? So that's what I wanted to emphasize. And if anybody want to click it, like last time, it'll be on my website. I see that the people got a chance to view it and get the information for themselves. Continue to do that. The information will continue to be supplied to you at firsttribenation.com. Again, firsttribenation.com.
Firsttribenation.com. Make sure you get on that. firsttribenation.com.
Now we can go on to the next one. I'm sorry, Brother Jarvis.
I was about to say, before we move on, can you dive into the sundial a little bit for those who don't, know what they're looking at?
Well, the sundial is just one of the most ancient ways that the Aztecs used and the Mayans used for their calendars, right? They use that for being able to tap into civilizations are built on the astronomy, not the astrology, but the astronomy. So understanding that astronomy was the foundation of great civilizations, they were able to tap into how the weathers will come in, how to relay information to one another. And the most ancient way that you'll be able to do that is the expression through the actual sundial. So it's a very, spiritual thing, but it's also a very practical way of communication. So we know where the origins of the Aztec came from. We just showed it. So now you need to see, well, what were the Aztecs showing in some of that ancient civilization? Well, now you're able to see that too. Right?
The future weather channel, we should say.
You feel me? You feel me? Exactly.
The future weather channel.
Mm-hmm.
Yo, this side I'm finna show. I read it, right? And I'm so glad I was reading it by myself.
Yeah.
I didn't.
And what he's gonna be reading is coming from President John Quincy Adams. So let's see what it say.
Drop the bomb on him.
Say boom. Could you say boom?
All right. So what it says is, the question is, what is the temper of feelings between the component parts of your own southern population, between your Anglo-Saxon, Norman French, and Moorish Spanish inhabitants of Louisiana, Mississippi, Arkansas, and Missouri? What between them all and the Indian savage, the original possessor of the land, from which you and I are scourging him already back to the foot of the Rocky Mountains? What between them all and the Native American Negro of African origin, whom they are holding in cruel bondage? That is from President John Quincy Adams at the House of Representatives on the State of the Nation, delivered May 25th, 1836. So who are those Moors being held in cruel bondage? Why aren't you told about the Moorish inhabitants being held in cruel bondage in the South? They don't even tell you that Moors were being held in bondage. Why?
They're just all
Because
slaves.
he's telling you who they are. He's telling you that is you. If you're coming from those areas. Now, these were dealing with Moors that were in Georgia, Alabama, Louisiana, Arkansas, Mississippi. So, and this is coming from John Quincy Adams was not a normal president, right? He was a very, very, we talked about last episode when he was representing the Moor in Natchez, the one who got his freedom, Abraham. He was being represented by John Quincy Adams. When you deal with Amistad, when the slaves overtook the ship, their attorney was John Quincy Adams.
Sing Bay.
He understood nationality. That's how he won that case for Amistad. These were free individuals who fought for their freedom. And that ship did not come from Africa. That's a lie. That ship came from South America. Steven Spielberg admitted that he falsified that history when he made that movie. In fact, Steven Spielberg said that was one of the only movies where his children got up and walked out of the movie.
Wow.
Why did they walk out of the movie of Amistad? Dad. He walked out because, this is the Easter egg, they walked out because he refused to show the part where they were in the ship and taking over and killing people to be free. He didn't want his children to see that. He only brought his children to see the part when he was dealing with in the courtroom, the whole boring stuff. They're like, Dad, this is a boring movie. Got up and walked out the movie. but he falsified the history saying that that ship came from Africa when it never did. So in other words, John Quincy Adams was very well acquainted with who he was dealing with. He was very specific in dealing with who these Moors were in the southern plantations. And the one on the left-hand side is just a Moorish plantation. That's a Moorish design plantation in Natchez, Mississippi. Like, it gets no plainer. Right? So looking at part one and then looking at this part two, you're seeing the continuation of very important, powerful information.
Ever since that presentation, man, I've been stuck on Andrew Jackson being a fraud, man.
See?
I just can't get that past my mind.
And
I had to tell people that, like, yo.
That alone puts you in a category, right? If he's a sworn Spanish citizen, what does that make you? If he's a Spaniard, who were they conquering over in Spain? Moors. By default. He's a Spanish citizen waging war. Right? And that's and the person that he ran against in for the presidency was John Quincy Adams.
Wow.
Yeah. They were running against each other. Small world, huh?
Very small.
So there's so much Moorish history and so much stuff to unlock. We're dealing with surface stuff, and once you just take a piece of it and start the deep dive, you start to see how deep it goes, right? Both of them people understood exactly what they were.
Mm-hmm.
And what their agenda was.
And what their agenda was. One denounced what he was to become something else. The other person knew that too.
Yeah.
John Quincy Adams brought it up when they were running against each other. You know, he ain't a U.S. citizen. But
we want blood.
Yeah, Debo, right? Do something. Right?
You care about that? We want blood. You say he with the Spanish. I don't care if he with the Spanish flu, the Spanish Cortez.
Yeah, there's nothing to see here. That's basically Andrew Jackson. There's nothing to see here.
The Spanish winning in 4, you know?
Fake news. That's all fake news. Come on, guys. Let's get these Indians out of here.
Yeah. What they say? Sprinkle some crack on them and get them out of here, you know?
Yes, sir.
Wow.
Yeah, so if y'all want to go to the next one, we can go.
Yes, sir. Let's go. Let's keep it going. Let's keep it going.
Obscure history of the Jamaican Maroon societies, right? Very important part of the history. Jamaican Maroons. It deals with the article in here. It just says that perhaps the most well-known Maroon societies are the ones that existed and in fact still exist in Jamaica. Maroon societies in Jamaica can trace their roots back to the 1500s when the ruling Spanish captured African Muslims living in Spain at that time, enslaved them, and brought them to Jamaica. Let's go back to what I just said. It said Jamaicans can trace their roots back to the 1500s when the ruling Spanish captured African Muslims living in Spain at that time. What was the name of African Muslims living in Spain at that time?
Moors.
And then enslaved them and brought them to Jamaica. What is it that they're telling you? They're telling you in your own face that they were enslaving Moors in Spain and taking them to Jamaica in the 1500s. And that they are the Maroons. That Moors are Maroons. This is what they're telling you. And then the last part is the Maroon communities were begun 150 years later when the Spanish left Jamaica to the English in 1655, and some of the slaves they had brought over were left behind. So when you're talking about the Moors, we're talking about of course, the first inhabitants of Jamaica were enslaved Moors from Spain.
Boom.
And that's also a direct quote from Dr. Ben, who taught the same exact thing.
Boom.
Big boom.
Right. So that Moorish history ties into all of that. When you're seeing this term maroon, now you're understanding who these first people came from. These were Moors that came directly from Spain, who were enslaved.
47, chapter 4.
Right.
Live and direct right now.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's I think this is very important as far as for Moors to get familiar with understanding the volume of the information and where we fall into that paradigm. You know, it's very, very important. Because these Maroons, when you look at their history, these were people who came from Spain, who were Moors, that merged with the indigenous populations that were already there.
Mm-hmm.
Again, tying into the people that you would call Caribs, people that these inhabitants, a lot of that history merges together.
So not saying I'm one or the other, but I'm both.
Exactly right. Exactly right. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Not saying I'm one or the other. I'm both.
Exactly.
They had a similar group here in South Carolina like that during the war times.
Correct.
They were saying that those some of the toughest people to deal with in those swamps.
Yeah.
They were some of the toughest people to deal with in their swamps, and pretty much just like the Spanish at their time. A lot of them folks left them alone.
Yeah. And that same part of the history. You can't. People try to just make the Gullah out of West Africa, but you can't ignore that the Gullah are the Gwale. The Gwale Indians have been there since time immemorial.
Mm-hmm.
You know. And the Ogeechee Indians have been there.
My great grandfather's Gullah.
See, so but they'll just try to just convince you. Oh yeah, well these people came from West Africa. No, you can't ignore the Ogeechee Indians, the Indians of the Ogeechee River, or the Gwale Indians.
And you can tell them by phenotype too, brother.
Mm-hmm.
You can. The Yamasee Indians were called Negroid Indians, right? So these Indians, these American Indians, come from a very rich and an ancient history, But don't get caught up in the shell game, because they will convince you that they're from another place so that you don't have land rights. That's why they want to convince you of that. They're not telling you. I didn't put this in the obscured history of the Jamaican Maroon Societies. If you tap on that article, that's what the name of it is. I didn't obscure the history. I didn't make up that term. They're obscuring that history. They're erasing that history. And that's why we have to unlock it.
And that's going on in South Carolina today, especially in Charleston, with the Geechee community down there. They've been fighting a real big battle.
Yeah.
With the powers that be there, and even being pushed to what they would consider the swamp lands. They made it about it beautiful, and now since they made it about it beautiful, now everybody else, quote unquote, want to see what was so rubbish then now being beautiful today.
And Brother Jarvis, you're absolutely correct. They moved those people and forced those people on the most uninhabitable land. Get out there in the swamps and go out there. Now all of a sudden, they want to put the resorts out there. They want to put the multi-million-dollar homes out there. And now the people that you forced out there, now you really want to burn down their houses, run them off, sell out family members to buy them out. You want to force them off so that you can continue, stealing land. Because that's ancestral land.
And those regulations that they putting on those people down there in Charleston, as far as on how to quote unquote remove them legally, it's ridiculous.
It is.
You look at some of that stuff, you'd be like, "Come on, man, make this make sense." You mean to tell me you're ready to take my land because I ain't dig this ditch three feet deeper?
Right. Or they'll go find some cousin that live in New York City or New Jersey somewhere, who's not even connected nowhere down there with the family down south. Here, just sign over this document and then go get some powerful lawyer, because this one cousin you never even met before signed some document so that he can get $30,000. Never even met his cousins down south.
Facts.
You know what I mean? And so they're using all kind of underhanded tricks in order to rob the indigenous people of their land rights. Yeah.
Next slide.
So what we're pointing out here is that there was an edict that came from Spain, and Muslims were banned from the Americas as early as the 16th century. They point out that on Christmas Day, 1522, 20 enslaved Muslim Africans used machetes to attack their Christian masters on the island of Hispaniola. That's what we call Haiti, then governed by the son of Christopher Columbus. The assailants, condemned to the grinding toil of a Caribbean sugar plantation, killed several Spanish and freed a dozen enslaved Native Americans in what was the first recorded slave revolt in the New World. All praises due to Allah.
Run it back. Run it back. Read it again. Run it back. Rewind.
Right.
Rewind.
On Christmas Day.
On Christmas.
Christmas, right? 1522. 20 enslaved Muslim Africans used machetes to attack their Christian masters on the island of Hispaniola, then governed by the son of Christopher Columbus. The assailants, condemned to the grinding toil of a Caribbean sugar plantation, killed several Spanish and freed a dozen enslaved Native Americans in what was the first recorded slave vote in the New World. The uprising was quickly suppressed, but it prompted the newly crowned Charles V of Spain to exclude from the Americas slaves suspected of Islamic learnings. He blamed the revolt on their radical ideology rather than the harsh realities of living a life of slavery. In 1586, the English privateer Sir Francis Drake besieged and captured the town, instructing his men to treat Frenchmen, Turks, and Black Africans with respect. A Spanish source tells us, especially Moors, deserted to the Englishmen, as did the blacks of the city. Presumably, they were promised their freedom. Although Drake was a notorious slave trader, a Spanish prisoner later related that 300 Indians, mostly women, as well as 200 African Turks and Moors who were servants or slaves, boarded the English fleet. They identified in the earliest days there, in the 1500s, that Islam was a threat. Wasn't just rolling over like, oh yeah, just turn the other cheek stuff. It's something about that Islam that put fearlessness in your heart. It's something in that Islam that said, I'm not going to buckle down and do what you try to tell me to do. I'll kill you first. And I'll free these Indians that are on this plantation too. Right? To the point that where the king sat there and said, hey, don't be shipping no more Muslims on them plantations.
They getting too excited.
Yeah, we can't be going through all of this.
What y'all putting in that sugar cane again? What y'all putting in that?
They ain't eating no pork. They getting all riled up.
Sugar cane. Sugar cane. That's all we got. Sugar cane in the Lord.
Yes, sir.
So it's a reminder of the power of Islam.
Yes.
It's a beautiful faith. It's a beautiful, it's a faith of equality. It is a faith that makes you fearless. It's sisterhood, it's brotherhood, it's a respect in it, and there's a love in it. Right? So it's something that should be sacred to each and every one of us. Muslims were banned from the Americas as early as the 16th century. They jumped on that quick. So I just wanted to make sure we're able to highlight that because, again, this is a branch of, they talking about the Moors, right? So this is a part of that.
Yes, sir. Let's go.
Examples of Indians made into Africans. This is very, very important because this is a part of that history that they try to, again, whitewash it or try to make it go away. This first one is the colonial remains reclassified as African American. This is from the Washington Post dealing with the Smithsonian Institution. Scientists have discovered that 4 skeletons dug up decades ago at colonial Jamestown were among the oldest remains of African Americans. The bones thought to date between 1650 and 1700s were originally classified as American Indian. Y'all see the bait and switch on that? They take the indigenous skeletons and then they make them into something else for the findings. And the reason why they even try to justify why they're changing it, it doesn't even add up. When they talk about the reasons why they did it, they're talking about what was in the roof of the mouth. There's a certain archway that's in the top of our mouths that they say, well, that's indicative of Africans, when actually it isn't. When you look at the most ancient findings of the ones, remember the one in Moundville that I showed you? They have the same thing. They have the same shovel right here that's in the roof of our mouths. They have the same exact thing. But I just wanted to show you examples of how they reclassify. Remember how we talked about last episode about the misclassification, about the petition that we had with Kyrie Irving and the different people who signed it? That's why we're addressing these things. Because in science, they'll reclassify something.
I signed it.
And I greatly appreciate that. We greatly appreciate that. But that's why we're addressing these things. They say the findings of the indigenous people, and then they make them foreigners. So another example is what we have here. This is a federally recognized tribe, the Natitok and the Lenape Confederation. This is a federally recognized tribe. And let's look at their timeline. They have a timeline, and I just took a section of the timeline, and let's see what it says. What it says is, in 1914, the Moore Lenape School Board trustees are listed by the state of Delaware. The board is exclusively comprised of members of the Cheswold tribal community. Well, let's go to number 1930. In 1930, original Delaware census records in which the census field workers identified Sussex County tribal families as Natitok, mixed or Indian, are illegally crossed out by a census supervisor and replaced. And what does it say that it's replaced with? What does it say?
African or Negro.
That's correct. It was replaced with the misclassification of African or Negro when they are filed with the field office. You illegally made indigenous people into Africans on the census. And this is coming from their direct website as a federally recognized tribe. And anybody can simply click on that and go see it for themselves. See, easy to the peasy. So these are just examples of how they mix up the dope, right? They take the indigenous people, change the remains, rename the remains, go to the tribe, illegally cross out their name, and make them into Africans. Checkmate. What's the next one? Hold on. Before we go on to the next thing, did y'all have any questions about any of the information that we've been going over? Because I know we kind of going over some information. I know sometimes we process things and we hear things, but is anything kind of
donate to the channel?
My question is, with this information being presented now, are a lot of these tribes coming forward to quote unquote bring us back home, or are they just like a lot of these other tribes who are pretty much staying silent and taking quote unquote the hush money, as they would call it?
There's a lot. Well, ultimately, your lineage. If their roles are open and you can prove your lineage, you should be able to be accepted into the tribe itself. Now, is someone proactively going out and reaching out to people?
Yeah,
I don't see that happening for a couple of reasons. One would be because they're racist.
True.
That's just giving it real. Another one would be because funds would be limited. If we going out reaching for everybody, And now that we're federally recognized, I don't have enough funds to be paying for everybody. Like, how are my family supposed to eat when I did all my research and I paid the great price? Right. Now, if you can't go and find me when I've been holding the line for all of this time, I'd be hard pressed to find it in my heart to be trying to bring in 10,000 more people who are going to be getting a cut out of what you know what I mean? Like, so I can't blame them for doing that. Wow. But there's other ones who are just outright racist, and they treat the melanin rich ones differently.
Facts.
Because they're racist, right? And you just got to call it for what that is too. They be on that. So it's kind of a mixture of both, you know.
Islam.
Yeah, let's just keep it at 100.
I was just go ahead, Ish.
Mm-hmm. Please you want to do this one? Yes, sir. That's no problem.
Please read it.
So this is from the book, The American Dilemma, page 124. It says, in the United States, miscegenation with the Indians and whites occurred from the very beginning. Indians were held as slaves in some of the American colonies, while Negro slaves were being imported. Equality of social status between Indians and Negroes favored intermingling. The whites had little interest in hindering it. As the number of Negro slaves increased, the Indian slaves gradually disappeared into the larger Negro population. Whole tribes of Indians became untraceably lost in the Negro population of the South. Some Indian tribes held Negro slaves with whom they mingled, and some were active in the internal Negro slave trade. Runaway Negro slaves and free Negroes often took refuge in Indian camps, where they then were kept as slaves or were adopted. They took part in the wars and the insurrections and became completely amalgamated in the Indian tribes with which they lived. In a few cases, the intermixture produced a group that was recognized neither as Indian nor as Negro. A few isolated groups of this type remain to this present day.
Mm-hmm. Now, I see that they said that they took on slaves within the tribe. Now, within that, and I don't know if you done a dive into that or not, but how would they say that they was treated as slaves? Like, were they just workers, you know, trying to pay off a debt, or was they just like, no, you ran here, you're my slave now until, you know, I feel like our agreement is done, per se?
That could be a part of it. Some of it could be like an indenture type of a thing, right? Mm-hmm. And some tribes were more reasonable in even with the use of slavery. You have, quote unquote, the 5 main tribes. I don't call them civilized tribes. You have like the 5 main tribes of the South. Mm-hmm. Some were far worse than others. The last place a slave would want to be would be a Chickasaw slave. Chickasaws were very, very hard on slaves. Some of them were a little more reasonable, slavery regardless, but some were a little more reasonable as far as if you were like in the Muskogee Nation, you might be able to have some land over here that you can work on your own. And they weren't necessarily whip heavy. Right. Chickasaws were. So some were a little more different than others. I'm going to show you in this PowerPoint one example that will be able to make it kind of clear what some of the differences of how slaves were treated.
Can we go to the next one?
Sure. Did you have any questions on that one at all? The one I had just read at all, brother? Because this is kind of dealing with what you talked about last week. We were talking about some of the slaves who would go and be run to Indian tribes. Remember you asked a question about that for the 7, and how were they able to blend in was the question you had asked. Right here, it said that they amalgamated, quote unquote, amalgamated so deeply it was interchangeable. You could not even tell the difference anymore. So that's what we were pointing out last week. If these Negroes merge with these Indians and they merge so deep, they became one. They're now tapped into the indigenous population, right? So that's what this is actually showing, answering that question of what you had, that deep question you had brought up last week.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
They said that it was untraceable is what it says. Right there next to yellow says that it became untraceably lost in the Negro population. You couldn't even trace it. And the next one was show an example of what I wanted to talk about with one of the tribes.
Neither as Indian nor as Negro.
Right. And those will be some groups that you'll find historically will be called like Black Dutch.
Whoa.
You can pull up who the Black Dutch were. Black Dutch were like Cherokees, but they identified as their own distinct group. So this next one is 100% African slaves become a full Cherokee clan member. Let's see what that says here. This is by Dr. Theda Purdue, a very high esteemed scholar. And what she's dealing with is sometime just before the American Revolution, a council met at Chota, the most important of the late 18th century Cherokee towns. Just 1 second here. Let me pull this up here. Okay, here it is. Cherokee towns located in eastern Tennessee, today eastern Tennessee. Sam Dent, sometimes referred to as Samuel Ben or Den, a white trader married to a Cherokee woman. So he had a Cherokee wife, and he had brutally beaten his pregnant wife to death. Are y'all with me so far? This white man, Sam, beat his Cherokee wife to death. Okay? Terrified that his murder's wife's clan would exact vengeance according to Cherokee law of blood. A Cherokee's law of blood overrides anything. No white man's law, no nothing. If they put the law of blood on you, you're dead. Nobody can interfere with that. And if you killed one of their clan members, they had a right to enact the law of blood, which is the highest law that they can inflict. Okay. He knew this, right? So Dent took 2 measures calculated to save his life. First of all, he fled to Augusta, Georgia, where he purchased an African American slave named Molly to offer to his wife's family as a replacement for the dead woman. Are y'all with me so far? Killed an Indian woman, knew what the law was coming, went out of state, brought back an African. Are y'all with me so far?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Second, until the matter was resolved, he took refuge in Chota, a town of refuge. Y'all can't touch me here. Where, according to Cherokee law, no one could harm him. Right? The council that convened at Chota in the 1770s to discuss the fate of Dent and the slave woman Molly tells us a great deal about kinship and the law at the end of the 18th century. Even more revealing was Molly's appearance in Cherokee court records 60 years later. Molly's story is instructive on 2 levels. It demonstrates the remarkable persistence of traditional Cherokee cultural values, and it points to a serious weakness in the documentary records on which Cherokee history is based. The decision on whether or not to accept Molly as a replacement for the dead woman rested with Dent's in-laws. That is, with the clan of his deceased wife. When Dent's murdered wife, according to the document that sketches the events in this case, her relatives determined to kill the said white man in accordance with the Cherokee law of blood. As John Philip Reed and other scholars have demonstrated, clans and clan vengeance lay at the heart of Cherokee law. The Cherokees had no national law, no police force, and no court system. Instead, each clan protected its member by exacting retribution for wrongs committed against them. Because of survival of the clan dependent on the clan's women, not its men, whose women belonged to their mother's clans, the loss of a woman was at least as serious as the death of a man and demanding swift action. Furthermore, vengeance was a sacred duty because by the American Revolution, however, councils had begun to insinuate themselves into a number of family matters, particularly when they involved non-natives. The need to control warriors who sought revenge on colonists for the deaths of relatives and provoked retaliation against the innocent Cherokees gave rise to male councils that sought to regulate the behavior of warriors. Since Dent was a white trader, any retaliation against him could have serious consequences, ranging from an interruption in the flow of goods to colonial military reaction. A broader council may have served to remind the Deer clan that the welfare of the clan and the Cherokee community as a whole might be better served by the replacement of a dead woman and continuing relations with the trader than another death, particularly that of a white man. So here's the conclusion. In any event, adoption brought Molly, or Chakal, as she became known, all privileges of being a Cherokee. Her ancestry, the color of her skin, her previous status as a slave were merely incidental. From the moment of her adoption by the Deer clan, she enjoyed the liberty of freedom. Being a Cherokee meant that she could rely on her relatives to protect her. And because the Cherokees held land in common, that she could farm any unoccupied land, she continued to live at Chota, took a husband named Tucker, perhaps Thomas, and bore two sons, Edward and Isaac, known as Chinnastuski, who, like their mother, enjoyed all privileges of Cherokee citizenship as members of the Deer clan. After the American Revolution, the Cherokee ceded territory that included Chota. Edward Tucker moved into what's today Georgia. So this is demonstrating to you a 100% African brought into the Cherokee Nation with all full rights. Again, just as a reminder, when you hear people telling you that they come from these tribes, it's bigger than DNA. This is deeper than rap.
Facts.
You might look at something and say, oh yeah, see, you're Nigerian. You don't understand the history of what took place. When a grandma telling you or a great-grandfather telling you that they are part of that clan, they are part of that. They are Indians. That is what they are, with all the full rights, historically, heritage-wise, right? So it isn't just when you're looking at something, you can just sit there, swab your mouth, and say that's what you are. It's not true. That's a lie. And I just want to show you an example of that.
Whoa. Boom. Next slide.
Yeah, next slide.
Next slide.
The mind is rolling. It's like everybody's got caught at one time. Like,
brother is cooking.
Yeah. What we
The
going
brother
next to this?
Because
I'm over here rubbing my hands like this in my head, like
the brother is cooking.
All right, this brother right here, and I said, brother,
I'll be right back.
No problem. This brother right here is Governor Pio Pico.
Yes, I heard about this brother.
Right, exactly. The last governor of California, right? With indigenous lineage and black lineage. Now they'll two-step you and say his mother was African, but we already proved that you can be black and be indigenous, right? Yes. So because they use the term Negro, but Negro can describe indigenous people too. Either way, he was black and he was quote unquote, he had the indigenous lineage, right? And studying his flag, doesn't that star look familiar? The original California flag right there?
Yes.
The Pio Pico flag?
Yes.
That's an interlocking flag. It's an interlocking star that later on became what you see underneath it. The flag of California. So again, the Moorish presence of what took place is something that's very rich and something that's very historic. That page that I'm taking that from is actually from, he has his own institutions here in California, that's in California, out west out here. But comes from a very, rich and indigenous history. So actually when Sheik 7 comes back, I want to be able to play an audio just so that people might get a better understanding of the Moorish element of what was taking place. Because there was a Moorish element of what was taking place in California that a lot of people don't necessarily tap into. So that's going to be what we'll be listening to shortly. But do you have any questions about any of the stuff we've been able to cover, so far at all?
I think all my questions has pretty much been answered.
Good.
Far from what I'm thinking about currently. But just to come back on this, the Pico brother, I really didn't know how much influence he had on California until, looks like most people my age, we check out Hidden Colors,
Right.
Hidden Colors pretty much started breaking down a lot of influences that our people had during that time period that people walk past. You see some of these streets with these names on them, and it don't dawn us like, well, how did this person get this street? Like, what did they do that was so important that somebody would give them a street?
Right.
And then not only give them a street, but briefly talk about it, but then, push it to the backside.
Absolutely.
Same thing with the Queen Khalifa. I didn't know about her until, like I say, either watching Hidden Colors or just happily, just doing some research, trying to, figure out, how did California get its name or how did it come to be? And then come to find out, it's a tribe of strong women out there in California.
Right.
Who are really going for it,
Yeah.
What you pretty much find out in a lot of these areas, it's a lot of people who just wasn't going for the mistreatment and the mishap and knew the science behind why you was here. You think you don't know you coming for the goal. We don't think you trying to integrate with us because you see what we have over here and how strong we are, for one.
Right.
That's the biggest part. You look at the strength within a clan or organization, you like, there's something within these people that either we got to go with them or we got to create something that's just going to destroy them off the bat.
Absolutely. So just as an update, Sheik 7. So we dealt with Pio Pico, and I do salute Tariq Nasheed. He gives a good surface amount of information that covers a vast amount of knowledge and topics, right? And for us, what I was pointing out was that California flag, the original flag is the Pio Pico flag, and you see what the original design of that flag was. That's the bear, and that's a Moorish star that's next to it. That's an interlocking star right there next to it. So within that, with him being of indigenous and that black lineage, it's very important to understand the Pio Pico flag and the Moorish element that took place. There was a deep Moorish element that took place in regards to California and its origins, since we'll be dealing with so many other areas. And Sheik 7, if you could click on the Facebook link that I have on the back chat, we'll be able to see that element in California and why that is so important, brother.
Let's see what we got here. Can you see it?
No, I don't see it on the share screen at all.
What was supposed to pull up? Because it said
It was on.
the video isn't available.
Okay.
Was it a video?
Yeah, it was a video. I could. Does it let me share my screen?
It should, let me see. Let me see. I don't. Let me see. Let me see. Share the chat instead. Can you see it?
No, it's not. It's not letting it share. No. Let me see if I can find another link on it here. So I know I can share it on my screen.
Let's see. Let me see. Let me go back here. Back to the back chat. All right. Let's see. I see the Facebook link right here. And yeah, it's saying that this video isn't available anymore.
Okay, hold on, just 1 second. Hold on 1 second. Let me see. Can I? Is it okay if I share it?
Yeah,
I can do it. Okay.
Go ahead.
Okay. Can y'all see my screen?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay.
Hi. Whoa. I wanted to talk a little bit about the South Spain, Andalusia. If any of the Spaniards, because South of Spain being so close to Africa, and there are Moors along the coast, there's that rigid caste system, but we have a lot of blackness in us also.
Absolutely.
And I'm wondering if you can speak about any of the Spaniards, were they Andalus? And did that have any bearing on some of the stuff that was going on? And we're in an interesting time right now. We're actually being able to talk about this, which is exciting.
Yes.
Thank you. But I'm wondering if you can speak a little bit about that, if you know anything.
Sure. So the caste system was crazy because it suggested that the Spaniards were pure, which is anything but true.
Oh, did I say that?
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean there was a tremendous amount of mixture with African and Moorish ancestry, but they're the ones that brought over the caste system. It was in existence in Spain before it was here.
The Inquisition. So. Yeah.
Well, I mean, it was they had a caste system, and that transition from Jewish and Moorish and Caucasian and so forth. In Mexico, there's a town called Matamoros, which means kill the Moor.
Oh no!
Right. So there was a lot of antagonism, and maybe the Spaniards, a lot of them who came over wanted to hide that aspect, but it's definitely there. It's in the Spanish culture, for sure.
Constructs. Thank you.
Thank you for your fascinating.
So as you can see, that was a very important part of the history itself, interwoven into, even when you're just talking about the Spaniards within that, embedded in it, is the Moorish history, and that he's the person who wrote the book on Pio Pico, dealing with the history. So that was a part of the question and answer period of his presentation on C-SPAN. But I'm just saying that a part of that history is so rich, and the Moorish history is interwoven into all of that. And that's what we've been unlocking them as a part of this series, that Moorish element. Okay.
That's deep.
Yes, sir.
That's us who was passionate about that too.
Right.
That's cool. Like, we don't do that here,
Right. And now y'all see the Pio Pico flag, and now it starts to make a little more sense too, right? You know what I mean?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes,
the Pio Pico flag right there. Okay.
Yes, sir. Man. Okay, let's go.
Okay. So the next one is dealing with the Nashville Banner in 1899. It deals with the Aboriginal Negroes. And it says, and the Filipinos. And now we come from the Philippines. That is a country of the Aboriginal Negro. I would be delighted to take the Negro there and drop him. Start him now on the way to his happy land of Canaan. Hey.
What?
Hey.
What?
That's a bomb dropper right there. Boom.
Hey. 1899, Aboriginal Negroes.
Happy
Hey.
land.
Hey.
Now, you know what I'm saying?
They do something that we didn't know.
It's a lot of stuff that's floating around in these newspapers in the 1899s and the 1800s. There's a lot of jewels being dropped. You know what I'm saying? When they talk about the Aboriginal Negroes, and that's what I'm talking about. They talk about Negro inhabitants on all of these different islands we've been unlocking here. Right? In Melanesia, we know who they are. We know who, of course, the Aborigines of Australia are. All of these elements, you know, these Aboriginal Negroes, these are their words. These are not words. You know what I'm saying? They're educated. So, you know, and there was a whole history that took place of them creating this title Native American. So you have to be really familiar with the trans-Pacific slave trade. I know they always talk about the transatlantic slave trade, but they don't talk about that trans-Pacific slave trade. See, in that trans-Pacific slave trade, that's when they were moving in these Aboriginal Negroes here, bringing them into South America, and then they start bringing in the Chinese Filipinos. And when the Chinese Filipinos came in, they started making the Chinese Filipinos, because they call those Chinos, they started making them into Native Americans. A lot of these people that you see that are called Native Americans today are Manny Pacquiao's.
Bingo.
But the original Filipinos, they're telling you right here in this article who the original Filipinos are. So they'll sit there and convince you that these Aboriginal Negroes are from Africa, while the Manny Pacquiao's are Native Americans.
How?
And the facts is that tequila originated in the Philippines. It ain't a Mexican drink.
Hey, yo, bro, you gonna make me put Manny Pacquiao as a tag?
So
Wait, you say tequila is from the
tequila is from the Philippines. Tequila did not originate in Mexico, right? So let's look at the experts and let's see what the experts have to say about that as we pull up the back chat. Let's pull up the back chat and let's see the origins of these drinks. Because before we get to that part, when you get more familiar with that trans-Pacific slave trade, you'll start to realize that China had to get an influx. China had ran out of money, and they needed to have metal to make money. So they needed to get to the silver mines, so they needed people to work the silver mines. They used the Filipinos as slaves to work the mines in South America so that they can run the silver back over to China. And China also had no food. So since they had no food and they were starving, they had to eat sweet potatoes. Sweet potatoes are indigenous to the Americas. So study the sweet potato famine of China. And you will see that they had to rely on the sweet potatoes that are being brought over as a part of the slave trade just so they could eat and survive. And they had to use slaves from the Philippines to work those mines. And they brought in slaves from North America. They brought in Navajo people. They brought in people from Western United States areas, brought them down as slaves to work those mines, work them to death. All that history, they don't teach us that, do they?
No.
They don't teach us that. So now let's look at the origin of the tequila and let's see what it says.
Let's see. I don't think you see that, do you?
No.
Okay, we finna show it though. We finna show it. Let's see here. Yep, here we go.
The name of the article: How Filipino Sailors and Coconut Helped Create Mexico's National Drink. Most people see tequila as mezcal as quintessentially Mexican spirits, but recent research has uncovered their unlikely connection with the Philippines in 2022, right? Very credible anthropologist, physician based in the Philippines, expert of the field. While visiting, article says, while visiting Oaxaca, Mexico last year, I joined a mezcal tasting tour. The guide, Antonio, asked participants to introduce ourselves. When I told everyone I was an anthropologist from the Philippines, the guide beamed. Look, guys, he said, it's thanks to his country we have tequila and mezcal, unquote. He was referring to the... He got a shout out, didn't even know it, right? He was,
I was in there looking like,
what?
He's like,
I didn't know this,
right? He's stumbling into being the man.
Hey, he calling back home. Why didn't y'all tell me we created tequila?
You know, pop your collar to this, player. He was referring to the long history of trade between the ports of Manila and Acapulco, which connected the Philippines and Mexico for more than 2.5 centuries, starting in 1565. Over the course of that period, some Filipinos, including sailors who came over on the large shipping vessels known as galleons, ended up migrating to Mexico. They brought coconuts along with techniques to ferment coconut sap into tuba, an alcoholic beverage consumed in the Philippines since pre-colonial times, and sometimes distilled into a stronger coconut liquor known as langbanog or bajalina. These fermentations and distillation techniques were applied to agave, plant native to Mexico and other parts of the Americas, eventually becoming what we now know as tequila, the blue agave, the mezcal from other agave varieties, unquote. So again, the facts are there. The history is there. And when you study the people, I would recommend anybody get the book by that deals with from Chinos to Native Americans. A very good book. It deals with the colonial time, and you'll see for yourself how they would take one negrito that was a Filipino on one part of the journey. He would be a negrito Filipino, and by the time he got to another destination, they changed his nationality into being an African.
Yeah.
You'll be able to see it for yourself.
That's crazy.
Yeah, so they started making up these terms out of thin air and creating these people, you know. So that's why they started. When you start looking at somebody, you're like, man, you don't even. These people look Filipino. It's because they are Filipino.
They are Asians.
Yeah, in the 1500s, there was a lot of merging that was taken. In fact, they were even sending some Filipinos to Native American schools in the Midwest. So they would send them, and then they would go in being, you know, so-and-so Aquino and coming out long feather.
Right.
Yeah. They were actually sending them to Native American schools. Okay.
I read that a couple years ago when the guy was breaking down the charts, and he was saying how the Chinese, the Mongolians in those early 1600 days, how they was traveling to south, and then, like you say, making their way north. And then boom, you look at the tribes, like you say, out in the Midwest and in the West, they look more Asian descent than, you know, they look more American. Yeah,
absolutely.
And I've seen lately, you know, now that we're in that information age where truth is amongst us all, a lot of them are starting to admit they have Asian descent within them. Versus just saying, "Oh, quote unquote, I'm 100% Native American, blah blah blah. I'm indigenous to the land." They're like, "No, we have some mixed blood in us too."
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know if y'all have time, but I mean, I could show y'all an example if y'all want to.
Yeah.
You want an example?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I'll show you. So you can click on the back chat. And we can pull it up and read it.
Yeah. Pull it up. Yeah, the people need to see this.
Yeah, no doubt. My freestyle game is awesome, y'all. Like when I be in debate and I be locked into somebody, man, I'll be pulling up my sources like pap, 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 pop, pop, pop. Man, I stay, yeah. So
Yeah.
Don't
hurt him, Mo. You know.
No, we coming to hurt him.
Sharif Bey taught me good. Pop, pop, pop.
Elbow.
Boy, I swear he a great one. Ooh,
So,
whoa.
if you scroll down just a little bit, you'll see the article for yourself. It'll say playing Indian. Right? Yeah, so let's see what it says. Playing Indian, playing Filipino, Native American, and Filipino interactions at the Carlisle Indian Industrial School. 1912 photograph in the New York Herald features 5 indigenous people in varying states of Indian dress, including feathers, headdresses, and beaded necklaces. Among the portrait of these Indians in New York is Stephen Glory, a Filipino. Like his Native American counterparts, Glory is dressed in plain style headdress that was popular in the portraits and touring Indian shows at the time. Simultaneously labeled as one of the Indians in the image and as a Filipino, Glory's presence in the photograph recalls the shifting and slippery racial categories for Filipinos in the aftermath of the Spanish-American and Philippine-American Wars. By the time the image was taken in 1912, Glory, a former student of the Carlisle Indian Industrial School, had joined a traveling Indian show in New York and changed his identity from Stephen Glory, a Filipino, to Stephen Redleaf, a Pueblo. Despite the limited archival footprint of Glory's life, the photograph raises several important questions about identity, community, and performance following the U.S. occupation in the Philippines and the end of the so-called Indian Wars in the West. So that's another example of them making Filipinos and the Native American Indians in them Carlisle Indian schools. And I got a whole bunch of them that I could be showing over.
So Trump was right when he said they're all fake.
and they look at us like we crazy when we be having the indigenous bloodlines. It's because you comparing us to Filipinos. So how is our DNA supposed to match with them when they're the fake ones? We're from the ancestral homelands, right? Our families have been there since time immemorial. We have land that we own there, but yet you comparing our DNA and our history to something that you just made out of thin air. Did y'all see how quickly they changed this whole identity?
I man, say my name Redleaf.
Call me Redleaf.
No Filipino. I don't know them guys.
Yo.
Redleaf.
You want some tequila?
You want some tequila?
Holmes.
hey, Mo, for you, I put a little blue.
I put a big worm in this.
Boom.
Guess what, guys? You're Filipino.
Oh, man.
Y'all seeing it live for yourself. How they obscure the history.
You know, now we have to say if you're Filipino, you Moro.
See? So we bring all of that back home. See how that stuff, all that stuff intertwined like that, though. It becomes a slippery slope. When I was saying that it wasn't no clear black and white, it's a really nuanced conversation. See, that's what I mean by that.
Yes, sir.
You know?
Yes, sir.
So if that Filipino, Redleaf, or anybody else in there, if they say, well, actually, I got Moro history, he could very well be a Moro from the Philippines. Like that Moorish element is there in bloodlines if a person knows their lineage, right?
Right.
So that's what ties it all together. And that Moorish element is something that's consistent if you just see, where it is. And you don't have to lie, or you don't have to make no stuff up and just say this is all this and this means more and that means more. That's sloppy stuff. Deal with what the documentation is telling you and be responsible with the information. That's what's going to help Moors. Having real talking points. They can now say, no, you need to look at part 1 and part 2 and part 3 of this series over here. These Moors here got some facts here. They got that documentation we talking about. That's when you can refer to people to solid sources. And that's the importance of Let's Think podcast. That's the foundation that y'all setting by bringing people on.
Yeah, honest, brother, because that's exactly what we striving to do, beloved. That's exactly. Let's get back to it, because you still got some more information in here, don't you?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We ain't gonna stop it. We ain't gonna stop it. We're gonna keep it going. Here we go.
And what we're dealing with is just some more examples of some things that are taking place. Moorish slave is a burden to an artist. This was a Moorish slave being held in real time. That was in 1905, right?
Whoa.
Like, yo, where is that legal? Like, what are we talking about here?
A Moorish slave in 1905.
Like, what are we talking about here? Like that sound crazy, right?
What about 1865?
So it deals with Gilbert White, a portrait painter, has a Moorish slave named Absalom. Anyone who wants to sound Moor, 6 feet 3 inches tall, chest 48 inches, biceps 17 inches, and who hits, I think, 1506 on a punching machine should apply before it's too late. Like, you literally put on more slaves, selling them
in 1905.
In real time.
And he telling you how big this guy is, so you can't even.
No, he know everything about him, bro.
Right.
He can't even take that dude for a joke. Like, yeah, he's solid, 6'3", big chest. If you swing on him, you better hit.
You feel me?
Like, you better connect, because if you don't connect, that 6'3",
he gonna slaughter you.
48-inch chest.
And there's no shame in the game when it's put into the newspaper.
Yeah,
like there's no shame in it. Like where they do that at,
bro? And the brother can fight. So
and he got hands.
And he got hands. So anybody want him, you might have to test him on his hands first to see if he's gonna go with you. Because
sound like what us, bro.
Yeah, because he's 6'3", heavy chested.
Yeah, he ain't playing. He ain't playing.
He's not playing.
That brother is not playing.
The next
man, let's go to the.
Yeah, the next section is from the Baltimore Sun, the 24th of December, 1856. It deals with the coolie trade and African apprentice system. There was an exciting, considerable attention in Havana. This was in Cuba at last accounts. It was reported that General Concha had promised the apprenticeship system his continuance. This indiscriminate introduction of antagonistic races, it was thought by many, could only result in evil consequences to the island. The Chinese are said to be exceedingly hard to manage, and whenever they have an opportunity to rise against their owners and murder them. The Chinese was not playing.
No.
At first opportunity, they was taking the machetes and like, what's going on?
Yeah.
Yo, so they was too much of a problem.
Making duck soup, baby.
You feel me?
Yes, sir.
Just
the noodles is coming. Don't worry about it. The noodles is on the way.
Just before the steamer sailed, they had a repetition of this very common occurrence at the Regia warehouses, where the Chinese rose against their overseer and brutally butchered him. Hardly a week passes without these difficulties occurring. So they was nonstop. The ranks of the chain gang are daily strengthened by their numbers. If to this motley crowd of Asiatics, the Yucatan Indians and African slaves added 60,000 free black apprentices, it is thought that Cuba will not long enjoy the distinctive title of Gem of the Antilles. So there's some constant wars taking place. But see how many black apprentices they brought in? 60,000. Like, it's hard to wrap your mind around that stuff. You know what I'm saying? Now,
60,000.
Let's remember that date, the 24th of December, 1856. Isn't that what it says?
Now, let's look at what it says, the June 1856, 12th of June. The next one. Dealing with the part just after the Mexico, but after the publication, that number, the third part over there. Y'all with me?
Which slide? Can you see it?
No, it's on the prior slide.
13.
It was 13.
Okay.
And it was the third row.
This one right here.
Okay. Yeah. Yep. And when you're looking at that part of it, let me just check it here what it says. Just a little bit above the yellow section of there, it just says his book is described as treating very freely of his exertions and services on the questions of an alliance with Spain and the Spanish Convention mentioned in our correspondence on selling Indians of Yucatan as slaves to the island of Cuba. He does not write. It is remarked much like a diplomat. So I just wanted to point out that even though they were bringing in the 60,000 black apprentices, they were still enslaving Yucatans as slaves. Those were the Mayans that we talked about, right? Y'all remember the Mayans last week from the Yucatan?
Yeah.
That's what they were doing. This was in 1856. They were still bringing in those slaves as they were bringing them in. So I just wanted to highlight that part of our conversation previously, okay?
Yes, sir.
All right. The next one that's after that is, again, dealing more with that Yucatan slavery. That was something that we were really
go back.
Number 14.
This one.
Yes, sir.
Yes. That was dealing with those Yucatan slaves. And if you look at some of the numbers, particularly like the numbers that are on the right-hand side of that, it's talking about a massive amount of people that were being brought in. When he describing the slavery itself, we're talking about the farms are so large that each has a little size. It says a little city of its own, inhabited by from 500 to 2,500 people, according to the size of the farm. The owners of these great farms are the chief slaveholders of Yucatan. The inhabitants of the little cities are the slaves of the annual export of henequen from Yucatan is said to be about 250,000 pounds. The population of Yucatan is 300,000. The Slaveholders Club numbers 250 members, but the vast majority of the lands and the slaves are concentrated in the hands of 50 henequen kings, and the slaves number probably more than 100,000 people. So 50 slave masters has more than 100,000 slaves. They move in numbers.
That's a whole city.
Exactly, 100,000. So it says right here, right after that, the slaves are Maya Indians. Y'all see that part? For the most part, but the work is so severe that they do not last long, and their numbers are being recruited with the drafts of Yaqui Indians deported from Sonora into slavery in Yucatan. Yaqui Indians, we're talking about, they're bringing in Indians from Arizona. Man, we're not talking about the same things right now, yo.
That's a lot of people moving.
It's a lot of people moving, right?
Like, how do you even
explain that?
And to keep up with that, as far as when you talking moving that amount of people at one time, you talking about diseases, health. Like, how do you even calculate
that? How do you manage that?
Yeah,
right.
Without, the uprising behind that, because I'm pretty sure you moving that amount of people through tribal lands. It ain't hard for somebody just to move off,
right?
Or go ahead and make and do the deal. It's over with. By the time you get us down the street, we'll be going back laughing.
And look at what they're admitting to in real time. These articles are things that they're putting in the newspaper. I'm getting these from newspapers.
So if you're telling me that you're doing this, and this was in the year 1909, this is what you're admitting. You then later on come up with the storyline of roots that Alex Haley stole from a Canadian.
Yeah.
And was found guilty of doing it and paid the Canadian, right? So you start mixing up the storyline later, but in real time, you're admitting where these people are coming from. These people are coming, these are Mayan Indians, and you started replacing them with Indians from Arizona. That can't be underestimated because you're trying to convince later on that all these people came from Africa.
Right.
You mixing the dope.
Whole time they've been on the Mississippi.
There you go. So that's why I say the value of it is looking at the older records. Pull up those older records and see what they were saying in real time. Eyewitnesses were seeing in real time. That's what's going to tell you what the real deal is. Not the sanitized propaganda stuff that they be trying to feed the people. Because they'll try to sit there and tell you you have no connection to Mayans, ignoring the fact that hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of thousands were being moved around.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So that's the stuff that we're tapping into right now. And the Moorish element was all up through there.
Can't say it any clearer.
Right. So let's go on to that next one. We close it out strong like we did last week. We just closing out strong.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Brazil's melting pot is fusing all races into one. Right? So with this article here, which again will be available, but we're talking about the Kansas City Star, Wednesday, February 20th, 1918. It's really telling you that Brazilian people are their own like race, right? They're so merged in together. On that, the part where the big yellow bar is on the right-hand side, it says no color line in Brazil. The amazing wonder of all, especially to a North American less familiar with European races and holding decided views concerning color lines, is the manner in which this country is slowly and apparently with harmony and democratic social and racial relations evolving into a distinct Brazilian type. The silent characteristics of what is becoming to be known as true Brazilian character include an aristocratic culture and high intelligence of the old family Portuguese stock, at once Latin and Moorish by inheritance, and exaltation, daring, and passion of a vigorous Aboriginal Indian blood, softened by the affectionate emotional strain of the African, especially in North Brazil. So they're talking about this merging of all the people, right? So, and that's the way we really try to describe a lot of our racial characteristics in North America too. There's a merging of
mix this.
Right, exactly. So a lot of that does carry over the same exact way, you know.
Yes, sir.
A whole lot to it.
Mm-hmm.
The biggest melting pot.
Next one. Anybody got some questions?
Yeah. Any questions on anything?
What we got, Josh? What we got in the chat?
Question. With the Islamic influence being so big back then, why is it that those who know the truth in these countries don't speak up about that Islamic presence versus now it's more based on Catholicism? You know, you look at any country in south of the border, it's heavy on Catholicism.
Right. A lot of that would be a question that can be properly answered by those who have a really good understanding of secret societies, right? Those who are enlightened and those who know the history understand that there's an Islamic core that moves up among those who are well studied. So yeah, you might have, a Bible in your temple. However, there's also, once you go up to the upper information, the Islam comes right out.
Mm-hmm.
The Islam is right there for those who are enlightened and those who are in the know. So the history is there. And the history is actually taught. The history's on the things that we use every day, whether it's the medicines, whether it's the money, whether it's how we move in society. The information is there, right? But it's just that I don't think that Islam as a whole is something that, well, in America, they're just not prepared for it. There's a truth within Islam that you're going to stand and that you're going to represent. You see why it was banned from Spain for a specific reason. There's going to be some things that you'll tolerate and some things that you won't tolerate. So as a society, like Floyd Mayweather almost got caught up. He almost got caught up last month. Somebody in his entourage stole a watch. I think it was about a $300,000 watch or something over in Dubai.
Oh, wow.
And they slipped out the country. And they didn't let Floyd go for a minute. They're like, no, you ain't going nowhere.
I seen that. That's
right?
what Davis was talking
about. If he wasn't Floyd, they handled it diplomatically. Yeah. But initially they were like, you ain't going nowhere. And Floyd was like, no, I'll give you $500,000, $600,000 for it. No, you don't understand. First of all, your chump change means nothing here.
Facts.
Second, we want the dude who stole it so we can chop off his hand for stealing from our country. That's how we get down.
Yep.
It's not about money. Don't even insult me with your money. That's what Islam is.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right? Your money means nothing to us. What that person stole was an heirloom that you can't put price on. And we want him, fly him back here on your jet so we can chop off his hand.
And
you ain't leaving.
And we want that watch back.
Yeah, and exactly. Right?
Right now.
Like now.
Right. So I'm sure somewhere he does have good favor and good business with people. I'm sure they smoothed it over because he was back in LA before we knew it.
Yeah.
It could have got sticky and it would have got real bad if he wasn't famous.
Fact.
Right. But I'm just saying that there's a vibration of something, whereas I don't want your money. This is about principles here. You can't have that in a society in America. You can't have that.
Not in the capitalist society.
Right.
Not in the capitalist society.
Your game mean everything.
Right. Right. But Jefferson had a Quran, and presidents are well studied. They know what going. Y'all seen John Quincy Adams? They know what's going on.
Yeah.
Oh yes, sir.
What side do I want to be on is the question.
What side do we want to be on is the question. Exactly.
Yes,
exactly.
Sir.
But I want to thank y'all again. I think that we had a beautiful build. I always want to make sure I'm able to respect the 2-hour limit that we have, as well as just to let y'all know that we have plenty more in this particular series of the information we're going to be bringing forward. I want to thank you again so much for availing your platform to me and the First Tribe. I want to thank Urban Indian Heritage Society, Phoenix Moon, Dr. Nolan, just everybody, all the American Indians out there for their constant support. I want to invite y'all to please sign and share the petition that deals with the misclassified American Indians. Continue to study the Moorish history. If y'all have any questions, please feel free to either leave them on my website, firsttribenation.com, or just find me on Facebook. I'll be happy to answer. I want to thank, again, Let's Think Podcast, Sheik 7L. I want to thank you so much. And Brother Jarvis McGriff L., I appreciate you so much. I love you, brothers, and I certainly do thank y'all for, allowing me to come back.
Brother, man, it's always a pleasure to have the liking of yourself. Islam. Hey, brother, only thing I can say is I thank you for coming. Mm-hmm. We're gonna keep getting it in. We're gonna make Mondays your day.
Appreciate it. Yes, sir.
Tune in. Mondays, Ishmael Bey. We're definitely gonna continue to dig into this Moorish presence in America and continue to unfold this history that is being so swept under the rug, and it's really not, it's really public information. However, what we have to do is show ourselves approval and do the due diligence. Islam.
Islam.
Ishmael Bey, it's always a pleasure to have you, brother.
Thank you, man. I appreciate you, King.
I've been watching you for years, enjoying your scholarship.
Thank you.
You know, I'm gonna tell you one thing, that brother smooth. You know what I'm saying? You don't want that brother smooth, brother. He'll do you know, debate style, brother. Him and Sharif. Yeah.
Mo can't even describe it. It's like,
I can't even describe it. It could get real sticky. You know what I mean?
Oh man.
But man, the brothers been staples in the country community doing their thing, and always bring the receipts, and I respect that. I truly respect that, and always an honor to have you on, brother. Mondays, you got it. It's gonna be more in Ancient America Mondays. We're gonna keep it popping because the brother gonna have, bro, tons. He's been doing this. It's like this is nothing new for Brother Ishmael Bey. He's been doing this, so tons and tons of information, documentation, and receipts. Everybody hit the like button for me. If you hadn't hit the like button, please hit the like button. Please hit the like button for me. If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe.
Islam family, I love y'all. I'll let y'all close out.
All right.
Yes,
Peace
sir.
and love,
Peace and love.
Peace and love.
Praise Allah. Yeah, another good one with Brother Ishmael Bey. You know, the day awaits us both.
Yes, sir.
I like to say to the listening audience and everybody in the chat, we appreciate y'all.
Gratitude.
You can always hit the super chat right now. You got any questions? We'll save them for later. You can always donate to the Cash App. We appreciate you. For any and everything that you donate, in any type of way that you support. So, Brother Jarvis, you got anything to say?
Oh man, you know, always a great show. Always honored to be a student of new information, or for those have it old information. But I definitely enjoy just getting this breakdown and just filling in those missing pieces from my own life, from having questions of like, how did we really get here? You know what I mean? Because it's always that topical. You all came from Africa. Well, according to our documents, this is Africa. But I mean,
that's a whole nother one.
And that's a whole nother topic.
That's a whole nother one. Because now we'll get into periods where we have to exclude what ones would know as the Atlantic Ocean.
Yeah.
You know, and that jumps right into chapter 47 of the Moorish Temple of America, Holy Quran. And the Prophet Noble Ali most definitely spoke of that time period. So, you know, we could definitely get into that. I mean, hey, that's neither here nor there.
We'll be on hours.
And to all the brothers, man, all the brothers and sisters, man, all my Asiatic brothers and sisters, you know, standing and being proud of who you are. Continue to do that, please. Continue to do that. You know, we're not here to talk about organizations. We're here to speak about knowing thyself. You know what I mean? And take a piece. You know, take a piece of this grand architecture here. Just take a piece. Take your place. And we're going to continue to march forward in propagating and extending the learning. You know, there are going to be many perspectives on Let's Think podcast. Not saying that I may agree with it, with all of them, but however, we're going to give our people an opportunity to speak and a voice. You know, because we deserve to be heard. And who's going to give us the platform to be heard but us? So, yeah, that's what Let's Think Podcast is here for. And I thank everybody. I thank everybody for tuning in to the chat. Hit the like button before you go out. Donate to the channel. Donate to the Cash App. It's pinned in the comments. Matter of fact, I'll put it on the comments.
Yeah,
I'll put it up on the screen right quick. Matter of fact, before we go out, donate to the channel. And of course, we got more. We got more. We got Ishmael on Mondays. More receipts.
Mm-hmm.
And we got a couple special shows this week coming for you. And I'm not even gonna talk about it. We're just gonna make sure you tune in. Sheikh 7 Islam L on Facebook, Sheikh 7 on Instagram. You know, More Hands on Instagram, Jarvis McGriff L on Facebook. Tap in with us because we always promoting. We always putting it out there, letting you know who we bringing, what we bringing, and we bringing it all just for y'all.
Islam.
Islam.
Peace and love.
Peace and love.